Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Wednesday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, and we have a 53-man roster to break down. The Bucs have made their decisions, they've made cuts, and they have the whole squad ready for the 2025 season. So we're going to break it down on today's show. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Hello, Scott. How we doing?
Doing good. You feel pretty good about this roster? I do. I think it's a pretty damn good roster. I think it's the most talented roster and the deepest roster the Bucs have had in years. Matt, you there?
Yeah, sorry. Froze for a second.
Yeah,
I feel really good about this roster. I think it's a solid unit. I think top to bottom, there's not too many places that there's issues with this team, and therefore they're going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. I don't know if they're going to get to the Super Bowl, but they at least have the talent and certainly the aspirations to do so.
Yeah, I mean, talent will get you so far, right? Look at the Detroit Lions last year, but then they got hurt. Their defense was in shambles against the Commanders last year, and they just ran out of bodies, right? So health and momentum play a huge role in teams getting to the Super Bowl. You have to have the talent, but your team has to stay healthy. That's the common denominator between that 2002 and 2020 Super Bowl teams in Tampa Bay is health, right? And if this team can get healthy and stay healthy, then look out, because I think they're going to win a lot of games. That's the only thing that I think will stand in the way of this team is if they get bit by the injury bug like they did last year. And Matt, let's start off the show. We'll get into the 53-man roster in just a minute here, along with the roster cuts. And we know some of the practice squad guys. We're going to spend more time tomorrow analyzing the practice squad. We'll touch on the guys that we know today, though. But, Benjamin Morrison has been out for a long time. He's missed the entire preseason, and they're hopeful to get him back, but he wasn't out there practicing this week. Is it likely that with just 1 week of practice, he would be ready to go and dress against the Atlanta Falcons? Or does he look like a game day inactive for Atlanta, even if he practices next week, Matt? I think that's kind of a big question.
It is a big time question. Like, do you go with someone like Benjamin Morrison, who certainly has a much higher upside, or do you make like Bryce Hall a game day elevation, or do you kind of just run with the crew that they have with Kindle Vildor and a couple of other backups, and hopefully Jamel Dean and Zion McCollum are injury free throughout the whole game and stuff like that? It's a tough decision, because we're not only talking about somebody that is rusty all the way to not playing several games last season and having a season ending short, but also a player that has never played in the NFL at any level, because he is a rookie. Now, we saw with Kalijah Kancey, Kalijah did not participate in any preseason games when he was a rookie, and he came out firing out of a cannon in that game against the Detroit Lions when the Bucs brought back their creamsicle jerseys. But I think it's a little bit different with a defensive tackle versus a cornerback in this situation. Because if you make one mistake at corner, you have a wide open receiver that's going 80 yards for a touchdown.
That's right.
Where a defensive tackle, it can be disguised a little bit more. If you get pancaked on a block, well, you still have the linebacker there to, clean up the run play. If you're not getting to the quarterback, well, maybe the edge rusher got to the quarterback, or maybe your defensive back, your corner, or your safety goes and makes a play. So I don't know. It's tough, because Morrison's looked really good when he's been available, but he hasn't been available in several weeks.
Yeah. The interesting thing too is Cade Otton, right? He's missed a couple of the preseason games.
Yeah.
And was out again. We asked Todd Bowles today. I think it was Greg Allman who asked him about his injury. Was it the same hamstring or a different one? He says it's a leg injury. So all of a sudden now, Cade Otton, who was Mr. Reliable, playing like 95% of the snaps in his first couple of years in Tampa, now all of a sudden he wasn't practicing this week. Is he going to be ready to go next week? He looked rusty in the Pittsburgh game when he got some snaps in there. So I don't think that's enough to necessarily sit him down and make him inactive for this game. But you kind of wonder about Cade Otton now because he has missed so much time during training camp. And is this going to be like a recurring injury? It's noteworthy too, Matt, that we didn't see a Cade Otton contract extension right during training camp. And also, to be fair, Luke Gedeke, who didn't miss any time during the preseason or training camp, he didn't get a contract extension either, right? We kind of lumped those guys together. Maybe Zion McCollum will get a contract extension, or maybe he hits free agency like Antoine Winfield Jr. did. But I think probably a good move that they have not extended Cade Otton yet. He's a good player, reliable player. They're counting on him to play this year, the whole season. But, you know, I think they're doing the right thing by maybe holding off on him. I would hold off for a full year. I'd give Cade Otton this year to see what he can do, see how Payne Durham develops too. Because if you're looking to give him a contract extension, and he showed he was worth it last year, but maybe make him show it one more time before you throw down $12 million for your starting tight end.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. And again, when it comes to the rankings of the players that were eligible for a contract extension with Gedeke, Zion McCollum, and Cade Otton, I had Cade Otton third on the list.
Me too.
No disrespect to what he's brought to this team. Because if Luke Gedeke were to hit free agency, I think Bucs fans in the front office would go, oh, we need Luke Gedeke back.
Right.
I think to a certain degree, you say that with Zion McCollum as well.
Yes.
Now, it certainly helps with how Jacob Parrish has looked. I know playing in the slot, but ideally you'd bump him outside eventually.
Yeah.
And, certainly with the potential of Benjamin Morrison. But at tight end with Cade Otton, I don't think anyone, and again, no disrespect to him, but I don't think anyone is going, no, the Bucs can't function without Cade Otton.
Right.
Like they can function with, I don't know, drafting a tight end in the third round of next year's draft, or as you just mentioned, rolling with Payne Durham and Devin Culp as well. It's also interesting because Todd Bowles spoke about it today because Otton had missed time with a hamstring. And then Bowles said specifically he's sore, and then he said he's got another leg injury in addition to that, meaning the hamstring injury. So he'll be out a little bit. When asked about if that will lead into the regular season, he said, I won't know until next week. So that could mean a lot of different things. Because again, Todd Bowles was like, Tristan Wirfs will be fine. He'll be back. And then it's, Tristan Wirfs is going to miss the beginning of the regular season.
Right.
So that's happened a couple of times as well. Now, Cade Otton's played through a lot of pain. He's been an Iron Man for a long time. I know he missed the end of last season as well. But I don't know. I'm not penciling Cade Otton to be ready to go by week one. Hopefully he's able to practice this upcoming week after Labor Day. But between him, Benjamin Morrison, Christian Izzian's another
one too.
Kind of question mark right now. And that kind of leans into what Tampa Bay wants to do in the secondary, because even though he's technically not a starter, Christian Izzian's going to factor into this group in one way or another, just based on what Todd Bowles wants to do and what he likes to do with operating a secondary.
No, you're exactly right. Christian Izzian's super important. He is that sixth man, if you will, like in the secondary. You got your five starters with the nickel, and then he's the next guy off the bench at free safety or at strong safety or at nickelback. Like that's how important he is. He's the glue guy in the secondary, first guy off the bench to play multiple positions. His versatility is key. And as Todd Bowles said earlier in training camp, he's made the roster, and sure enough, he did. Had a really, really good training camp for sure. Speaking of roster, let's look at the roster cuts first, shall we? And then we'll talk about the actual 53. These are the roster cuts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And most of these, if you followed along on social media, we've also done a couple of podcasts. We did the Kyle Trask, Teddy Bridgewater podcast, the Emergency podcast, which was very well received. Thank you all very much for showing up for that, as well as our roster cut podcast from Monday. Connor Bazelak, Kyle Trask, Jace McClellan, Owen Wright, Raheem Jarrett, Jacob Harris, Dennis Houston, Garrett Green, Trey Palmer. Those were the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver cuts. Then you had Tanner Tala, who is the perennial practice squad tight end.
Yep.
Raekwon O'Neal, Tyler McClellan, Lorenz Metz, Michael Jordan, Luke Haggard, Sua Peta, Ben Scott, Jake Majors. Those were the offensive line cuts. Desmond Watson, Devon J. Thomas, Eric Banks, Mike Green, Nash Hutmacher, Adam Gotza, C.J. Brewer. A lot of defensive tackle cuts. We'll get into that in just a second because that factors into the roster and the practice squad. Then you got Jose Ramirez, former sixth-round pick, Warren Peoples, the outside linebacker, undrafted free agent rookie this year. Inside linebackers, Anthony Walker Jr., probably a surprise there. Nick Jackson, I think also a surprise. Antonio Greer Jr. Cornerbacks, Trey Avery, Bryce Hall, Jabian Farr, Tyreek Funderburk, Roman Parody, Shiloh Sanders, and Will Brooks. Those were the defensive backs that were cut. Now, when you look at the roster, Matt, we're going to just show these briefly, and then we'll break them down kind of by group here. But Buccaneers, if you want to read these off, Matt, the quarterbacks, the running backs, receivers, and tight ends.
So starting with quarterback, they are keeping 2, Baker Mayfield and Teddy Bridgewater. 4 running backs, Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Sean Tucker, and Josh Williams, the undrafted free agent out of LSU. He cracks the initial 53-man roster, so congrats to him. That's 2 undrafted free agent running backs.
That's right.
Sean Tucker as well. At wide receiver, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin Jr., Emeka Ibuka, Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson, Ryan Miller, and Cameron Johnson. So Cameron Johnson was a player that I thought maybe wasn't going to make it based on his performance in the final preseason game, his only preseason game, but he also ripped off a 57-yard kick return, and that certainly helped his chances right then and there. And then 4 tight ends, Cade Otton, Payne Durham, Devin Culp, and Ko Kieft. Kieft is kind of a hybrid fullback as well, certainly there for blocking and not necessarily receiving, even though he does have a receiving touchdown from Tom Brady. So remember that, folks, when you're at a trivia night somewhere and it says, name all the players that Tom Brady threw a touchdown pass to.
Don't forget
people are going to have not many people are going to have Ko Kieft on that list. But, yeah, there is your offense for Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin Jr., of course, not going to be ready for the beginning of the season, so that factored into all the wide receivers.
And Jalen McMillan also,
Yes, Jalen McMillan going on.
He's on injured reserve.
IR. Sticking with the offensive line, then we'll go over to the defense. Tristan Wirfs, Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton, Cody Mauch, and Luke Gedeke. Those will be your starters, but with Tristan Wirfs out, Charlie Heck will be starting at left tackle. They also held on to Elijah Klein and Ben Chukwuma. And then defensively, you have defensive tackles, Kalijah Cansey, Vita Vea, I've heard of those guys, Logan Hall, Greg Gaines, and the rookie Elijah Roberts. Outside linebacker, Hassan Reddick, Yaya Diaby, Anthony Nelson, Chris Braswell, and Marquise Watts. Inside linebacker, you have Levante David, Servassier Dennis, Deion Jones, and the Nebraska product, undrafted free agent John Bullock. So that's 2 Nebraska inside linebackers in that room, along with Levante David. So certainly Will Compton will be happy with the Buccaneers. Cornerbacks, Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, Jacob Parrish, Benjamin Morrison, Kindle Vildor, and Josh Hayes, Emois. Safety, Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyke Smith, Christian Izzian, Kayvon Merriweather, and Rashad Wisdom. Good for Rashad Wisdom going from the practice squad last year and now leveling up to the active roster. And then your special teams, kicker, Chase, Money McLaughlin, the Chase Bank. Punter, Riley Dixon, who Todd Bowles is in love with. He is so happy that he has an actual punter this year. And long snapper, Evan Deckers, makes the 53rd spot out of 53. So there's your initial roster for the 2025 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There will be several moves throughout the season, of course, when Jalen McMillan comes back and all different stuff. But there's your roster, folks.
Yep. And then the practice squad players we know of as of right now. And we're going to spend more time kind of diving into the practice squad tomorrow. But Connor Bazelak returns, the quarterback that you could say beat out Kyle Trask, really, because they like his upside. And I think he performed just as well as Trask did in terms of statistically. No turnovers from a rookie quarterback. That says something, right? Garrett Green, kind of a fan favorite. He returns as a punt returner and a developmental wide receiver, making the transition from quarterback, where he was the signal caller at West Virginia, kind of like Julian Edelman was a quarterback at Kent State and then transitioned to a wide receiver. Dennis Houston, who I thought was going to make this team. I actually had him on my original 53 before the start of the preseason. Then he gets hurt in that Titans game and missed the rest. But they saw enough in training camp to keep him around in the practice squad. Tanner Towla, the perpetual tight end on the practice squad for the Bucs. And then a bunch of offensive linemen, because they only kept 8 offensive linemen on the active roster. So you're going to see probably in week 1 or 2 of these guys get elevated from the practice squad to give them more game day depth. Ben Scott, the rookie, Luke Haggard's probably in the running. Michael Jordan, I think, will be elevated for week 1 because they only have, again, 8 guys. They usually keep 9 or 10 on their active roster at offensive line. Jordan probably will be that guy. Tyler McClellan is another offensive tackle option. Of course, Lorenz Metz is the international player from Germany, so he is the roster exemption. So they'll have a total of 17 practice squad players, 16 plus Lorenz Metz. They get a roster exemption with him. And then a lot of defensive linemen because they only kept 5, Matt. But they've got Adam Gotsis, C.J. Brewer, who made it to the active roster for a couple games last year, had 2 sacks in the creamsicle game on Kirk Cousins. Nash Hutmacher from Nebraska. Jason Jones, a big player, nose tackle out of Auburn. Also played at Oregon. Nick Jackson, who I'm glad to see return because I think he's a developmental linebacker for the future. Played really well, led the team in tackles with 14 tackles, and then had 2 sacks in the preseason, plus an interception. And then Bryce Hall, a veteran, that's a great pickup right there for the Buccaneers to get him into the fold as a practice squad cornerback. He's got some starting experience, and that makes me feel even better about the cornerback position, especially if Benjamin Morrison still remains to be out with that hamstring injury.
Yeah, Bryce Hall, I've said, like, if he's your 4th string corner, you're in a pretty good spot, like depth-wise. Now that he's on your depth chart, that's even better. So Hall, I still think, is going to factor into the defense one way or another this season. Nick Jackson, inside linebacker, who you just mentioned, I think he will have a role on this defense. Now, again, like, you don't want it to come from injury and stuff like that, but you also have to kind of be realistic about the NFL and players getting nicked up and banged up and different practice squad elevations that go on. So you'll see guys kind of move up and down the roster as things go. You know, again, when McMillan comes back, they're going to have to make a move then and there, but you know, they have plenty of time for that. But several of these practice squad players, CJ Brewer too, will end up as elevations on the team from time to time. So it's important to know the list. Jason Jones, I'm very intrigued by as well. I believe he was with Baltimore, and he was very sought after. He's kind of the new Desmond Watson in a way. Like, obviously not the same exact size and stuff like that, but a rookie defensive tackle, not Elijah Roberts, of course, but a rookie defensive tackle that the Bucs, you know, can maybe get the best out of or find something that he does well and put him in those advantageous situations. And he's really the one guy on the practice squad that was not with the Bucs in training camp. So I think that's another interesting tidbit as well, because, you know, there's maybe one other guy they could have brought back to the practice squad, but that player got claimed off of waivers to the New Orleans Saints. Of course, I'm talking about Trey Palmer, is now in New Orleans, Scott. It's a little surprising, but at the same time, it's not anything where the Bucs certainly can't overcome. He was expendable. Right. And I think for Trey Palmer, you know, he is a Louisiana native. He played 3 years for LSU before spending his final college football year in Nebraska. So, you know, good for Trey Palmer to get a new opportunity with, you know, a really crappy team. But, you know, for him, it's more playing time. And, you know, it leaves an opportunity open for some of these other receivers for the Bucs to kind of maneuver around and see what they want to do with them.
Yeah, Garrett Green, to me, I that's the most intriguing name at wide receiver. I've been glad that they kept him over Trey Palmer, even though Palmer has played some snaps for the Buccaneers, was really their number 3 receiver as a rookie. And that just goes to show you how much talent they've acquired since then, to where he was just a couple years ago wide receiver 3. Last year, he was like wide receiver 6 on the depth chart. Now you've added more guys in Tez Johnson and Emeka Ibuka, and we kind of called this in the spring. He had an uphill climb to make training to make the roster. He really needed a great training camp and great preseason. And then when he missed 2 games with a hamstring, it just kind of doomed him. And I think Cameron Johnson, you look at his ability to do kick returns and punt returns. That's huge. Plus, this team they got a thing for this guy. He's a good athlete when he's healthy. And I think right now they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But one more injury to him, and I think this team loses its patience. And maybe you see the old switcheroo where Cameron Johnson goes down and Garrett Green goes up. Just with Garrett Green, he just has to learn the nuances of playing wide receiver. He's got a great background as a quarterback, understands the offense and what the receivers are supposed to do, but now you got to go there and do it. You got to read coverage from that perspective while you're attacking safeties and cornerbacks in your routes rather than from behind the pocket reading defenses with the kind of the big picture view. So, but you had a promising guy, touchdown from Connor Basilic in the last game. And, that last preseason game, it was important for guys like him, guys like Josh Williams, guys like Connor Basilic to either get on the active roster or on the practice squad. Cameron Johnson made this team with that preseason game. He did have a drop, but he also had a sideline catch and had a big punt return and a big kick return in that game.
There's no doubt that Cameron Johnson is electrifying. Him and Tez Johnson. I mean, Johnson and Johnson. I know there's already, a company there, and they've ruined the New York Jets for several years to come. But Johnson and Johnson in the Tampa version, is a ton of fun and a ton of excitement to watch. I mean, we've seen how Tez Johnson just kind of came onto the scene and said, "I'm the punt return guy," and he's had some awesome press conferences and stuff like that. But the ability to make defenders miss, not just Tez Johnson, but Cameron Johnson too. Yeah. And Cameron Johnson, we saw that last year. We didn't get to see it this year because he wasn't involved in training camp at all until that last game. So I do agree with you. If he comes up limp or something like that and he's going to miss time, he's going to be the first guy that the Bucs kind of make a maneuver with. But I love the absolute threat that the Bucs have on either kick return or punt return. Tez Johnson, Cameron Johnson, Josh Williams. Screw it. If they want to go Emeka Egbuka, when the Bucs used to go, okay, emergency situation, let's put Deshaun Jackson as a punt returner. They have that opportunity with Emeka Egbuka. They could do it with Sean Tucker as a kick returner, as we saw last year. I'm going to go on record right now. The Bucs will have a kick or punt return touchdown this season.
I agree.
Especially with the new rules with kick returns, and there's more of an incentive to incite a return versus a touchback. The Bucs will have a kick or punt return touchdown this season. Mark it down.
I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to say Sean Tucker is going to get a kick return for a touchdown. I talked to him today, and he wants that bad. He said, I want to make my mark, and it's going to be an uphill climb getting some carries, right? But I can be out there in special teams making an impact. And I want to say he had one over 50 yards last year and averaged averaged close to 30 yards per kickoff return. So I'm with you, man. I think that's going to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Tucker returns a kickoff for a touchdown this year. Folks, there's a place that you can go, and if you've watched this show long enough, you know what I'm going to say. It's a place where I went with my son Logan yesterday. We had some fantastic food at Walk-Ons, and there is not a better place to go to watch the games. You got big screens, you got bold snacks, all the hype. Look at those nachos. Those are the new buffalo chicken nachos, and they're absolutely fantastic. Enjoyed those. Also had one of their new drinks, which is the Kickoff Cocktail Players Punch. I had that yesterday. That's fantastic. So whether it's that or the Walk-Ons Whiskey Sour or the Strawberry Mule, or if you're feeling frisky, you can get some shots. They got some specialty shots: lemon drop, tropical Vegas bomb, Washington apple, Mexican candy. They got the green tea shot, and they've got 2 sets of nachos. They have the buffalo chicken nachos, then they have the original chicken nachos too with the jalapenos. Look at those sliders, the boneless wings. They've got chips and queso, as well as their famous mozzarella logs. I mean, the food at Walk-Ons is fabulous. They have upped their app game big time. So make sure that you do what I did. I got there yesterday, but I'm going to go there for plenty of K-State football games. So whether it's college or pro, get to Walk-Ons and enjoy some fantastic food. They've got a new menu, new drinks, new food, and tons of TVs to watch all of the football action this year. 3 Tampa area locations: Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. Don't forget, they got the best happy hour in town.
I can't wait to go to Walk-Ons and watch some college football. Big slate of games on Saturday coming up. Texas, Ohio State at noon. Florida State, Bama at 3:30. Yep. And then the Battle of the Tigers for the night game with LSU and Clemson. So that's going to be an awesome matchup too. Let's get to a couple of these super chats, starting off with Kyle Dugan. Thank you for the $2 super chat, who says, "A day late, a buck short. I got on the report." I think he's doing that to the tune of the song "Damn It" by Blink-182, who happens to be playing in concert in Tampa on Friday. So thank you to Kyle for that super chat. Hope you have a great time at Blink-182 if you're going to that show. I have a feeling you might be. Mark Fisher, thanks for the $4.99 super chat. Says, "Help me understand. If Trask is not injured, is he still cut? Also, as soon as Godwin returns at wide receiver, a wide receiver gets cut."
Actually, no. Chris Godwin Jr. is on the active roster, so they don't have to make a roster move. The only roster move they'll have to make is when Jalen McMillan returns. So that's kind of the advantage, is when Chris Godwin's ready to go, they won't be at 51 players on this roster, essentially. They'll be at 52. Same with Tristan Wirfs, because they're carrying those injured players right now. So with Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs, as soon as they're ready to practice, they're ready to practice. As soon as they're ready to play, they'll be ready to play. And they don't have to make any roster moves with those guys. That's the good thing. So now with Trask did injure his shoulder, but apparently it was not bad enough to where they had to label him as an injured player that they cut. So he was free to sign with anybody right now. It was reported prior to his release that he would be, waived injured, but that really wasn't the case. He is free to sign with another team, and I'm sure his agent's out there trying to do that. But the Kyle Trask chapter in Tampa Bay is closed, at least for now.
Especially with Connor Basilick back on the practice squad. It's not even like the Bucs would have him on the practice squad. And with Godwin being on the active roster too, this essentially became a 51-man team, at least going into the season, with Tristan Wirfs also looking like he's not going to be available for that first game of the season. So it made it even tougher to make the team this year if you were on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in training camp. And that just shows how freaking good this team is. That's
agreed.
The talent, even when they're injured, you got to keep them on. So good luck fighting for the last couple of spots. Let's go to Richie P. Thank you for this $20 super chat. Richie P. You the man.
Richie P's in mid-season form already. Look at this.
Yes,
this is great.
Thank you, Richie. Have you guys heard anything about Javian Farr? I know Bowles mentioned he had a good practice in Pittsburgh and showed well during the game.
There's a couple of spots left on the practice squad right now. And I don't know if he's going to be one of them. I think they need to get a pass rusher. I think that's probably one of the spots.
Yeah.
But there's a couple spots left. And you only have one cornerback there. Now, keep in mind, they have 6 corners on the team, right? So they get 6 already on this team. And let's pull that up here.
I think also he was was waived injured. So he may have gotten hurt. I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, he was waived injured, so he'll have to sit out a couple games before the Buccaneers can bring him back, because they waived him injured. I'm sure they'll get an injury settled, and then I think you've got to wait 3 or 4 games, whatever, before you're eligible to even re-sign with the team. So we'll see. But right now, keep in mind they've got 6 corners on the roster: Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, Jacob Parrish. Keep in mind Benjamin Morrison is hurt right now. We'll see what his availability is for Week 1. Kendall Vildor and Josh Say. So they have 5 healthy corners plus Bryce Hall on the practice squad, right? So that's pretty good depth right there. And again, Josh Hayes making the team because he is really good on special teams. That's the case for guys like him, John Bullock, Marquise Watts, Kokieft, T-Mac, Thomas McGahee gets a say in who sticks on this roster, because you have to be able to get down there and cover kicks and punts. Otherwise, you give up big returns, you flip the field, and you lose the game. So that's why you see some of these moves that they're making on special teams. But Javion Farr, maybe he is one of those players that they bring back. They've got 2 spots.
Yeah, I like the hustle that he brought when he was here. Like his first practice was in Pittsburgh when they were at Carnegie Mellon. Had never had another practice with the team before, and they're like, "All right, you're out there playing corner against Mike Evans and other guys." Ended up having a pass break up that practice, not against Mike, but against another receiver. I respected the hustle and everything like that, so I hope he ends up back on the practice squad at one point or another, because he certainly was eager, and that's right. That's part of the game as well. Mark Fisher, the Rev Fish, thanks for this $1.99 super chat. Says, can we count Smith and Izzian as extra cornerbacks?
I mean, Izzian technically is a nickel corner too. I mean, and the nickel corner is a quasi cornerback, safety, linebacker, essentially.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid role. Yeah.
It is. Keep in mind, though, Jacob Parrish really is the first true cornerback that they have in that spot since Sean Murphy-Bunting, really, right? Sean Murphy-Bunting was also a cornerback, because they have tried Christian Izzian, Tyke Smith last year. Both those guys are technically safeties. And then same thing with Antoine Winfield Jr. So this is really, they're going back to a true cornerback player that will play inside in the slot in Jacob Parrish.
Yeah, but they won a Super Bowl that year. So
that's right.
Hopefully they would like to do that again too. Yeah. So I'm all for it. Jacob Parrish looked great in the preseason and training camp, and he deserves an opportunity to start as the slot corner for this team. So good on him.
Actually, we've got a transaction here. Greg Allman, friend of the program, is reporting the Bucs are signing rookie safety Jack Henderson, who just got cut by the Panthers, to their practice squad. So he is that is one more player on the practice squad, another safety. So no, it wasn't going to be Shiloh Sanders. The team had no idea about signing Shiloh.
Not to cut you off, but it looks like they just signed, also per Greg Allman, the Almanac.
Yeah.
Their last practice squad spot goes to outside linebacker Mohamed Kamara.
Yeah.
A Dolphins draft pick last year from Colorado State. Played in 5 games last year.
That's a fantastic signing. Actually, I was told that hours ago, but I was sworn to secrecy. So I guess Greg got the green light to go with it. But yeah, that's why I said they're going to sign a pass rusher. And yeah, Mohamed Kamara, great pickup by this team. Really hasn't done much in the NFL with the Dolphins. Sometimes you need a new change of scenery. Sometimes you need like a new destination. We're going to skip down here real quick to this super chat. We'll go back in order here, but Meets McGee with the $5 super chat. What happened with PR draft favorite Malachi Corley? And you can probably speak to this, Matt, because you keep an eye on the Jets, and he went to the Jets.
Yeah.
But sometimes you love a player coming out of college, and then they get to the NFL, and it just doesn't happen. And I'll give you some examples. Guy that I'm familiar with, Julius Brents, the cornerback out of Kansas State, went to the Colts' 2nd-round pick from a couple years ago. Bucs loved him. They really did. Todd Bowles was high on him. And he just bottomed out in Indianapolis. I mean, you look at the film from college, you're like, wow, okay, really good player. Then you look at the NFL film, you're like, yee, what happened? Same thing with Lewis Cine. The Bucs were this close to drafting Lewis Cine ahead of Logan Hall. But the Minnesota Vikings back in 2022 traded up into the 1st round and snatched him with the last pick. They were going to pick Lewis Cine ahead of Logan Hall, the safety out of Georgia. And instead, they picked Logan Hall because Cine was gone. The Vikings kind of jumped and leapfrogged them, and the Bucs picked Hall with the 1st pick in the 2nd round that year. And same thing with Lewis Cine. Terrible player in the NFL. Just bottomed out. Malachi Corley, kind of the same thing. 3rd-round pick, right, Matt, with the Jets?
Yes. 3rd-round pick for the Jets. Had 3 receptions for 16 yards last season.
Yeah.
Only ended up playing in 9 games, and things that I've heard and read about a little bit too. Malcontent's not the right word, but necessarily didn't have the best attitude in the locker room. Right. There was a lack of accountability. Now, people may remember, I believe it was a Thursday night game, Jets-Patriots, or another primetime game, because the Jets had a ton of primetime games with Aaron Rodgers. And Malachi Corley made the mistake of dropping the ball
That's right.
before he reached the end zone.
Yep.
Which certainly is an issue. He also didn't want to give up his number when Devontae Adams was traded to the New York Jets,
Right.
which is his right. But again, Malachi Corley is a third-round pick wide receiver who's done nothing in the league.
Right.
Devontae Adams is a very well-established wide receiver, and I'm sure was willing to, pony up a little bit to get the number as well, but didn't want to give up the number, which, kind of rubbed people the wrong way inside the locker room. And then you also have to remember that it's a new regime with the New York Football Jets, Glenny and the Jets, Aaron Glenn. So there's no, and a new general manager and everything too. So there's no, they didn't need to prove that Malachi Corley is their guy or anything.
Yeah, he wasn't their guy. That's right. You're exactly right.
And they're trying to build a new culture and everything like that. So
I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but the Jets were a dumpster fire last year. You can ask Hassan Reddick about that.
Yeah.
So maybe he just needs a change of scenery, right? I mean, because sometimes when when you drink from a polluted well, you get sick too, right? And maybe he was part of the problem. I don't know, but you see that, right? And the same thing with Mohamed Kamara. Bucs loved him coming out of Colorado State. I loved him too. He might have been a Bucs best bet. They all kind of run together now, but I think he's a guy with a lot of juice. Had 13 sacks his last season at Colorado State. As a matter of fact, he's got one tackle in the NFL. He played in 5 games last year for the Miami Dolphins and quickly just kind of fell out of favor there. Sometimes you need a new change of scenery, right? And maybe that's the case here. He certainly fits the Todd Bowles mode. He'll start on the practice squad. But, if you're Marquise Watts, that's going to be your competition for that 5th outside linebacker spot. And if you're the new kid and you show something, they're going to want to see more from you. So I'm excited about this pickup. Who knows if he can make the jump to the NFL and have the level of success that he had at Colorado State. Other guys like Jose Ramirez didn't, right? Marquise Watts, who was the all-time sack leader at Charlotte, actually had more sacks than Alex Highsmith there. He hasn't made the leap. So you never know. But I'm excited about this because at least he is a guy that has some juice, whereas guys like Anthony Nelson and Chris Braswell, they're more physical power players. And Marquise Watts, I thought he was going to be something more than he is. And I don't know if it's just a confidence thing or whatever. He's got some speed. It just doesn't translate and show up. And I think Todd Bowles said it best when he was talking about him and Peoples and Ramirez. Yeah. Sometimes the when you're doing it mentally, the physical part isn't there. If you're doing it physically, the mental part isn't there. In other words, you're making some mistakes. You're not putting it all together. So we'll see. Mohamed Kamara is another one.
I want to say I interviewed Mo Kamara at the combine because they gave him they gave him one of the tables on the side at the combine, not like the podiums. And of course, there is the connection to Shaq Barrett playing at Colorado State. Now even more of a connection going from Miami. I know Shaq Barrett was with the Bucs first, but now going from Miami to Tampa Bay. So we'll see what he can bring to the team, and hopefully, he gets a shot and an opportunity. Let's go to this super chat. Also from Meets McGee. Thank you for the $5. On Rick Stroud's podcast, his co-host mentioned Trask as a bust. I'm not a Traskaholic, but do you believe that's fair with him not getting the live reps?
Kyle Trask would be the mystery that will never be solved here because we never saw him throw the ball to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. And, Mike Evans makes people look good, You know what I mean? It's just, it's just how it is. But at the same time, one thing Rick Stroud has said, and I agree with, greatness shows up early. And at no time did Kyle Trask look great. He's had flashes in practice, and he's had some good throws in games, but he's never had an opportunity. I mean, I'm just trying to be fair here. I'm trying to thread the needle. He's not had an opportunity, whatsoever. But at the same time, I didn't see that much progress. I thought he made a leap from being kind of like a subpar or like a very average backup in his first couple of years. He threw 3 touchdowns and 1 interception
Mm.
last preseason. I thought that was his best preseason, and it was, right? But this year, you saw Teddy Bridgewater go out there and just throw a couple dimes,
Yeah.
right?
And we never saw that.
We never saw that from
Trask.
Kyle. He threw one touchdown pass. It was a nice 1-yard touchdown to Tez Johnson, but he never wowed you. He was a safe guy, and I think for a backup quarterback, that's fine. Did they overdraft him? Yeah, of course. He was the last pick of the second round, almost a third round. Some people, for whatever reason, I've seen, like, they blew a first round pick on this guy. He was the last pick in the second round.
Yeah.
He was a second rounder. I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig, but he just, he never developed into anything more than a backup quarterback. And I've seen zero evidence to suggest that he has any ability to truly be a starter. I just didn't see the processor pickup, right? Like, in terms of just going through reads and just being on the money. And I'm telling you, honestly, Connor Baselak, I think is just as fast of a processor, if not faster, coming out of Bowling Green than Kyle Trask is right now. We've heard the term deliberate learner thrown out there by Clyde Christensen, the former quarterbacks coach, about Kyle Trask. It's a nice way of saying, takes a long time to learn the playbook and all that. But I don't know. For this team to pick Connor Baselak to be the third string practice squad quarterback because they see some upside in him, that tells you everything you need to know. That means they viewed Baselak as much as, and they liked Kyle Trask. They legitimately liked him. But for this year, they needed Teddy Bridgewater. They needed Teddy Bridgewater, and it was the right call to get him. And listen, the Detroit Lions were waiting for the Bucs to cut him. They wanted Bridgewater back. They're really bad, right? And the Bucs knew that. I think there was some interest in Las Vegas after Aiden O'Connell suffered his injury, and the Bucs just said, "There's no way we can cut this guy," and we will lose him. And right now, the Bucs have him for a sweetheart deal too. It's just over $1 million.
That's right.
You don't want to get into a bidding war for your number 2 quarterback,
exactly.
Because all of a sudden that $1 million turns into $2 million, turns into $2.5 million. Now you're paying $3 million for a backup quarterback.
Then you can't justify it. It's like, all right, Kyle, get back here.
Yeah, exactly. So they played it right. They did.
And the Lions cut Hendon Hooker too, so very much shows how much they were interested in Teddy Bridgewater. For Kyle Trask, I mean, we did see glimpses of good moments, but I think the problem was they could never be strung together. Yes, there were nice moments, but there wasn't. Bruce Arians always talks about stacking days and stacking games.
That's right.
Kyle Trask was never able to stack the days and the games the way that certainly Baker Mayfield was able to. Now, to call it a bust, I think is a little tough, because when I think of players that are busts, I think of players that were drafted to be immediate impacts, or they are drafted at a position where they're going to get playing time right away.
Yeah.
Everybody knew the deal with Kyle Trask, which was he was going to back up Tom Brady or even be the third string with Blaine Gabbert. So it didn't really become bust potential until he had a quarterback competition with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
But it worked out so well with Baker, it's tough to be like, oh, well, it was a bust of a situation. No, it gave you a different look, a different situation.
Right.
And they went with door number 2 or door B or whatever. And it was that B stood for Baker, and it worked out fantastic. So I wouldn't say it was a bust. Is it a disappointment? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, Teddy Bridgewater came in a month ago, not even earlier this month.
Yeah.
And took the job. So certainly a disappointment for Kyle Trask. And you know what? Now we'll see with Connor Baselak, hopefully not this season, but in the next preseason, see what he can do. So
yeah, and the other thing too, I'll say about Trask is you look back at that 2021 draft. It wasn't good for the Buccaneers. It really wasn't that great of a draft class to begin with. It's not like they just had some real obvious misses of guys they should have gotten. Now, hindsight's 2020. 5 years later, we can go back and look and say, oh, they should have got a Liam McNeil. The defensive thing.
Sure,
we can play that game all we want, but it wasn't like they drafted the wrong quarterback. I don't know that there's any other quarterbacks that year that really amounted to anything after Kyle Trask. So you have to kind of put it in perspective a little bit. It wasn't a great draft at all by Jason Light and the Buccaneers in 2021. They were drafting backups, though, because they didn't have any needs. They re-signed every single starter from the Super Bowl season. And yeah, JTS didn't work out, and Robert Hainsey was probably the best pick in that year's draft class. all I can say is thank God that was a catalyst for the 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025 drafts, because Jason Light is on a heater right now in terms of drafting. Look at the talent from this team from the last 4 draft classes. If it takes that draft class bombing to propel the Bucs to 4 really good to great drafts, sign me up all day long.
Yeah, I think
because
everyone would
all
agree
they've
with you.
done since 2021 is win division championships too. I mean,
That's
let's not forget.
All they've done is win and punch a ticket into the playoffs, and that's why they have 5 in a row, and that's the most among any team in the NFC.
Yep.
Bucs Basement, thanks for the $5 super chat. Says, second most important position on the team, edge rusher, and Light is awful at drafting them in the top round and doesn't want to spend for quality in free agency.
Well, I mean, who do you want? I mean, let's look at the 2 free agent outside linebackers he's got most recently. Shaq Barrett was pretty good in 2019.
Yes.
All right. He turned out to be hell of a find. And then you've got Hassan Reddick. That's kind of the bookend. Let's go back to 2019, and then we've got this one here. Outside of that, I don't think they've signed an outside linebacker in free agency. They've drafted a couple. JTS was certainly a miss, right? You can go back to no offense if you want. By all accounts, David Walker was going to be the guy that kind of flipped the switch from Jason Light can't draft edge rushers to they finally got one. Kind of like what Rachaad White was at the running back position. Jason Light couldn't draft running backs. I was leading that charge, folks. I was the one. You can ask Jason. I was the one picking on him all the time. He can't draft running backs. See running backs around the league. He can't draft them. All of a sudden, boom, he drafts Rachaad White. Then he signs Sean Tucker. Then he drafts Bucky Irving. Then he signs Josh Williams. All of a sudden, he's gotten really good at finding good running backs. Not just him, his front office, the scouts. Same thing with outside linebacker. I think David Walker was going to be the guy that kind of turns the tide. And you know what? We're forgetting Yaya Diaby. Yaya Diaby
I was about to say,
really good too. So maybe he is starting to catch fire here a little bit. 6th round pick, Jose Ramirez. Okay, that's a flyer essentially. But to get Yaya Diaby and the jury's still out on Chris Braswell. I'm not a fan right now. We'll see what happens, but maybe between David Walker and Yaya Diaby, he can actually draft some guys. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait for next year to see about David Walker.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about David Walker, but I can't sit here and be like, he was going to be incredible based on like, okay, well, what about Chris Braswell? If Chris Braswell was injured last year, we would be like, he's going to be incredible this year now that he's back. But I'm certainly optimistic about David Walker. I think the issue, like Yaya, I think is a good example. He was a 3rd round pick. He's been a solid starter for this team with the potential to be a really good starter for this team. I think what maybe Bucs Basement's complaint is, or what other Bucs fans might be complaining about a little bit, is that the Bucs haven't had that kind of like stud edge rusher that other teams have had since Shaq and JPP were, crushing it for this team in 2020 and 2021. Now, I would also say, one, that's kind of hard to find across the league. Yes, you have your Myles Garretts and your Micah Parsons and your TJ Watts and everything like that. But not every team has that stud edge rusher. My second point would be, let's see what happens with Hassan Reddick, because if he ends up turning out to be a great signing, well, then you got your double-digit sack guy again, and then everyone can go back to the table and renegotiate and see what happens with Hassan Reddick. But it's been more hit and miss than necessarily just bad signing after bad draft pick after bad draft pick. So I think that's important too.
Yeah, listen, I'm not high on Chris Braswell. I am not a Braswell apologist. However, I'm going to give Larry Foote a year to cook with this kid. All right, the stove is on. All right, the stove is on, and we're going to see Larry Foote cook. I think that George Edwards stunted Braswell's growth last year, so I'm almost looking at this as a rookie year for Chris Braswell, and that's just how I'm looking at it. That's going to be my level of measurement for Braswell. Now, he needs to show something. He's going to have plenty of opportunities. They're going to rotate Yaya and Hassan, and they're going to have that second line with Braswell and Nelson. He's got to show something. But I believe in Larry Foote. I'm going to give Braswell a year, and we'll see what happens. And he's a physical player. He is not David Walker. He is not Hassan Reddick. He's not even Yaya Diaby in terms of speed. He is more of a physical type guy that I think if they got 4 or 5 sacks out of Braswell, they would take it as a reserve. And we'll see if he can get there. He got 1.5 last year. It's not always about the sacks, but you should be able to get to the quarterback if you're a second-round pick. Otherwise, you can find run-stuffing defensive ends, edge rushers in day 3 and rounds 4 and 5. So did they overdraft Chris Braswell? We're going to find out this year.
Big-time question mark on this team that doesn't have too many question marks, going into the season, which is a good thing. Very nice $2 super chat from Tyler Lavelle. Thank you very much, as he compliments us, saying, I hope y'all get featured on a network this season. Well, thank you very much for the kind words. We were featured on ESPN briefly during Pewter Report's podcast with Todd Bowles.
NFL Network
earlier,
too.
Back in May. Yeah, and the NFL Network. So we pop up every now and then. But yeah, that would be cool. We also kind of have our own network with Pewter Report TV, Scott, because we have returning soon the Pewter pregame show, the Pewter game day show, and the Pewter post-game show, which will all be coming up when the Bucs are playing their games.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this. We tried something new last year, which was the Pewter pregame show, and that was a huge hit. And it's going to be 9 o'clock again in the morning, Eastern time, every game day morning. So when the games are on Sunday, 9 a.m., we're going to have an hour-long podcast. Yours truly and Matt Patera. The latest news, latest injury news. We actually broke a lot of injury news on the show live. Got my sources, people. So make sure you check that out. That's going to be September 7th, the day of the Falcons game. When the Bucs play on Monday night, we're going to have the same time, 9 a.m. on Monday. When they play on Thursday night, same time, 9 a.m. on Thursday. So it's always on game day. So Pewter pregame is on at 9 a.m., whether it's a 1 o'clock game, 4 o'clock game, 7 o'clock game. And I say 7 because both of the Monday night games this year are 7 o'clock, not the 8:30, which is great. So bookmark that on your calendar, folks. It's always a fun time. We had great turnout last year, so we're expecting y'all to come strong for Pewter pregame. And then at kickoff, Pewter game day, Bucs and Falcons, September 7th. That's a 1 o'clock start. Thankfully, the Buccaneers have a 1 o'clock start. I'm looking forward to that, Matt, because I hate waiting around for football. Yeah. Let's get at it. Let's wake up and watch some football. So we got Pewter pregame, and then a couple hours later, Pewter game day right here on Pewter Report TV, Matt Patera. And we're going to have some special guests this year. It's going to be a fun show. We're looking forward to it. Again, y'all showed out for that last year. Matt Patera brings the emotion, the energy, the passion to his Bucs coverage, plus the reporting. He's in the locker room with me, with Adam Slavon each week. So we bring some color, some context, and some inside scoop that you're not going to find on the broadcast. So the thing to do is to watch the game on TV or your streaming service, turn down the volume and turn up the volume when it comes to Pewter Report TV and Matt Patera.
That's right. Very much looking forward to it this season. We've had a ton of awesome moments. I mean, last year towards the end of the regular season, of course, it was Mike Evans getting over 1,000 yards in that awesome moment. Tons of great times during the game, during the season. So looking forward to everyone rocking with us again this upcoming season.
What I'm looking forward to, and listen, I know that they're a sponsor, and I didn't go to school there, but I'm really looking forward to that Thursday night game when USF takes on the Boise State Broncos right here in Tampa.
Facing pressure, Ransom's going down. Get your South Florida football tickets today.
I think there's some added pressure on the Bulls because they have like back-to-back games against Florida and Miami after that. So they need to start strong. And they have a chance, I think, at home. Wearing that all-black uniform. That's pretty cool. And they're going up against the 25th ranked Boise State Broncos. No Ashton Genty on that team, thankfully. And that is Thursday, August 28th. That's this Thursday. That's tomorrow, 5:30. Wow, we got college football tomorrow. Raymond James Stadium. All you have to do is scan that QR code and get your tickets. Still available. Scan the QR code, get some tickets for tomorrow night's game. Ray J, USF versus Boise State.
We got a super chat from Meets McGee. Thank you for the $2 super chat.
Yeah.
Says in all caps, we need Matty Diamonds.
That's right.
Need my money. I'm glad you brought that up, Meets McGee. Still working out a couple of details, but we're going to have Pewter picks and props, and we're going to have a lot of Pewter picks and props. This week, probably tomorrow, out will be my Bucs futures. So season-long futures, over-unders, certain prop bets on Baker and Mike and a couple of other of the players. That will be coming out. Separately, in a different video, I will have my picks for Saturday's college football slate. Next week, I will have a separate show on other future prop bets for the NFL season. I'll have AFC champions, NFC championship, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl matchup, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year.
Yep.
Narav. A lot of Bucs fans are going to be picking that one.
Yep.
That will be a separate show early next week. And then also I will be doing shows for every Monday night game and every Thursday night game, even if it's not Bucs included. I'll have player props for each of those. Those ones will be a little bit quicker than the show's just all about the Bucs and the show's about NFL and college because there's more games to talk about. But there will be plenty of Pewter picks and props, and I hope all of you tune in to each and every show. Also, a Survivor League, which I'll talk about a little bit at a later time once everything is finalized. But a Survivor League, if you're into that, we'll have more information on that one too.
Before we leave, we want to give a shout out to our Pewter Platinum members, as we always do. Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, He's 0813, Ash Fishpool, Joel L. Rican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Leighton Carter, The Guy Is Gifted, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Eric McMillan, Dominic Tarantino, and HK Bucks. Thank you all so much for being Pewter Report TV channel members, especially our Pewter Platinum members. Greatly appreciate that. That's right. Let's go. Love this time of year. We're getting close, folks. We are. And the way you can support us the most is by becoming a channel member. We saw a huge spike in channel membership during training camp in the preseason. You can click the join button on Pewter Report TV. That's our YouTube channel. Click join, and you'll have all of the options here: $3.99, $6.99, $9.99, and $24.99 a month. Think of this as your internet tip jar. You like our content here, and you want to help us out? Well, you can super chat us, but you can also become a Pewter Report TV channel member. So we greatly appreciate that. Find the subscription level that fits your budget the best, and we greatly appreciate it. We also appreciate Briar Greaves Insurance for sponsoring the podcast. It is almost, gosh, what do we have? Like 2 months left of hurricane season, you know? But gosh, there was a hurricane or two that got us last October, right as it was coming to an end. Make sure you're protected, folks, not just with homeowners insurance, but also flood insurance. Do you want to save money on your insurance? Are you spending too much on homeowners or auto insurance? Go to BriarGreavesInsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. They're an independent agency that not only you can trust, but I trust them. They have my business. Plus, Jason Light is a Briar Greaves Insurance member as well. Give them a call and say, hey, am I paying too much for auto or for homeowners insurance or for my boat? They're going to run the numbers for you for free, and they'll tell you if you are or aren't. And if they're not, if they can save you some money, then sign up with Briar Greaves. Absolutely fantastic family here in Tampa. Great to work with. Highly recommend.
And just a reminder, we have another show tomorrow at 4 p.m. Bucs form their practice squad. We'll talk more about the practice squad and keep it pretty open with Q&A. If you have questions for us about the Bucs, we will be happy to answer it on tomorrow's show. And in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video and hit the like button. Share a comment about how you feel about this 53-man roster with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how you feel the Bucs will do this season. But that will do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.